mention immigrants, the IRS has entered into an agreement to share tax data with ICE to help in deportations. On Monday, April 7th, the IRS and DHS finalized a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. The agreement, MOU, is already in effect and has been since April 7th, the date the Treasury Secretary of IRS, Scott Bessent, and DHS Secretary Christian Noem signed it. This agreement will primarily impact undocumented immigrants, including and especially those who have final orders of removal. So the IRS is a federal agency that enforces federal tax laws, and they also collect taxes. ICE carries out removals or deportations. The IRS allows undocumented immigrants to file taxes using the individual taxpayer identification numbers, ITIN, and they've allowed them to do so for several years. In exchange, they've given people the promise of data protection. According to ITEP, undocumented immigrants paid nearly $100 billion in taxes in 2022. So DHS officials, we have names and addresses for the undocumented immigrants, but they believe that the information they have is outdated and inaccurate. And so under this deal or agreement, ICE can send a list of names and addresses, specifically of undocumented immigrants who already have final removal orders. The purpose is to confirm their current addresses and places of work. When you file your taxes, you provide your home address and your employer information or where you work to the IRS. The IRS will then check those names against taxpayer records, and they'll give ICE access to certain information. So ICE will use the information to locate these people more easily, and then they can also enforce deportation orders more effectively. The IRS has privacy protection laws which are meant to protect taxpayer data, specifically Internal Revenue Code Section 6103. However, that section of law has a criminal exemption, and so the Trump administration is using the loophole around the privacy rule. Under the criminal exemption, IRS is allowed to disclose when the return information is being used for the purposes of investigation or proceedings, which relate to the enforcement of non-tax federal criminal statute. And so if someone is under investigation for some non-tax related federal crimes, like immigration offenses, under 8 U.S.C. Section 1253A1, then the IRS is allowed to share their tax information with investigators under that exemption. 8 U.S.C. Section 1253A1 applies to individuals who refuse to leave the U.S. after they have been ordered removed, individuals who fail to apply for travel documents to allow them to leave the U.S. after they've been ordered removed, people who take actions to prevent their deportation from the United States, and people who don't show up for their scheduled deportation from the United States. So this data sharing policy is rooted in
Executive Order 14159, which was signed by the President on January 20th, 2025. The executive order is called Protecting the American People Against Invasion.
So it comes directly from the President's immigration policy. The Trump administration is directing federal agencies to treat even civil immigration violations as criminal violations. For example, they are treating civil violations as potential national security or public safety threats, and these are federal crimes. So they are using criminal investigation very broadly, and so DHS may argue that individuals who violate immigration laws also commit related crimes. For example, if you overstay your visa, you could commit crimes like you're using false documents, or you lied on your immigration application forms, or you lied to CBP about what you're coming to do in the United States, or even to the consular officer, or you're committing some type of identity fraud using a fake or borrowed social security number, or using someone's work permit. Essentially, people have found this entire deal to be a betrayal. The IRS for years has asked the undocumented immigrants to pay taxes, and they will use the information for tax administration. And so now they're basically breaking their trust and using the information that these undocumented people provided to them and they're using it against them to deport them. Some IRS officials have said that they think it's unethical. In conclusion, if you're an undocumented immigrant and you have a final removal order and you've ever filed your taxes, then your information could now be used to help ICE find and remove you. This is a really big shift, and it's been a shock to many because for years filing taxes was seen as a good faith act, even for immigration applications. Now that same act could put people at risk of removal from the United States. If you have questions or you have concerns, please contact us 802-780-0564. We handle cases nationwide. If you have comments or thoughts about this, drop them in the comment section below. I'll see you soon in our next video. Bye.